she said, your business is dead, so don't call me again. If you don't have the fire in your stomach to get that business, then you don't need a business.
What is one last message that you would want anyone listening to this to hear?
If you're a romantic soul, I don't advise you to open a business with your husband.
So look, one of the biggest challenges juggling motherhood with a fast scaling business.
I made sure I lived next to my mother.
So you set up an environment that supported your goals.
Yes.
Environment is stronger than willpower.
Yeah, so I had the great support from my parents. My kids actually had a family environment. They didn't lose out in anything. They had everything they needed.
She came to the UK from Morocco, built an 8-figure luxury staffing business from the ground up, raised 4 children, and never once let the industry or anyone else define her worth. From the sales floor at Harrods to earning the trust of the world's top hotels, Fatima's story is grit, vision, and leadership in its purest form.
When I opened my business, that was the time I would say I almost had a shot. It wasn't an easy. You don't just say, okay, I'm going to lead from now on. You don't know whether that's going to happen. It's your lifestyle.
She came to the UK from Morocco, built an 8-figure luxury staffing business from the ground up, raised 4 children, and never once let the industry or anyone else define her worth. From the sales floor at Harrods to earning the trust of the world's top hotels, Fatima's story is grit, vision, and leadership in its purest form. If you're a CEO, an entrepreneur, or a big dreamer with big ambitions and even bigger odds, you need to hear this. Fatima joins me on the next episode of the Limitless CEO podcast. Subscribe now. Before all of this, before reaching an 8-figure business, before gaining the trust of, the world's top luxury hotels, take us back to your story where you was a 7-year-old girl selling lemonade. What do you remember most about that time?
Well, what can I say? At that time, I don't know what was going through my mind, whether it was I wanted the leadership of my siblings, because really they were my customers. I was selling to them.
You're selling to the family.
To the family,
business.
family business. So whether being the eldest, I wanted to show them that I'm the leader, so you come and buy off me. Or whether it wasn't a matter of we needed the money, so I've gone out there to make it. It was pure. We lived a very comfortable life and everything else. So there was no reason for me to go and think, I need to sell this to make this money to do something with. It was just something that I wanted. So it was
kind of like gaining the family respect.
Yes.
Okay. And let me ask you this. In your opinion, are leaders, entrepreneurs, business people, are they made or are they born?
I would say both. You see, a leader's not born a leader. You don't just say, okay, I'm going to lead from now on. You don't know whether that's going to happen. It's your lifestyle that actually brings you into whether you want to lead or not. It's the whole environment that you live in at that moment. And that's what I believe. And I think that's what's made me. So
environment is stronger than willpower, basically. And
of course.
You'll always grow to the size of your cage.
Of course. And you know what I say? I say it's always really important that, a lot of people make a mistake of wanting to be, the big business leaders and everything else. But to get to that leading part, they don't see what's in front of them. For me, to be honest with you, I think you really should see what's in front of you. Use what you have in front of you to get to what you want.
It's really interesting you said that. My mind went to people that make becoming a leader the goal rather than serving or, using what they have in front of them.
No, that's exactly I find that a lot of the generation now, that's the mistake they're doing.
They focus too much on just looking good.
They focus too much on looking
becoming
good.
A leader,
TikTok,
having the money.
This, I can see the cars, I can see this. But they don't realize what's in front of them. Because, to be honest with you, I started, and even at going to school, everything else, I always wanted to do business studies and, everything in my knowledge was I wanted to have a business, my own business. That was the only thing I was thinking of. But at the same time, I wasn't thinking I'm not going to go out to work or become a sales assistant or cleaner or anything. I still had to take whatever, because every step that you take in life to get to where you are is so important, because that's where you're learning from.
So I have a question for you, 2 questions. The first one is, was there a time where you didn't see what was in front of you?
Yes, there was a time that I didn't see what was in front of me, and that was the time that I started my business. Literally, when I opened my business, that was the time I would say I almost had a shock of what's there for me, because it's good that I had the adrenaline for it and the hunger and everything else, but it was very, very hard for me to start. It wasn't an easy. A lot of people would say, "Oh, it's very easy." Once you get there, it was not an easy, and that was like a throwback for me.
Got you. So then, what forced you to see what was in front of you? That's the second question.
The success.
So once you saw it working, you thought, "Oh wow,
you see it working.
I want to keep going."
Yeah, you see it working, and you say, this is what I wanted, and the trust and it's not somebody. It's almost that you have a service that somebody needs, and you're happy to give it. And that's how it, being in the industry, my parents been in the hotel industry, they've worked in hotels and everything else, and seeing it all, it just, because I understood it so well, I felt that I could give to our clients what they need. A lot of people would say, oh, you can do a business without actually having the knowledge for it. And I find that having the knowledge of a certain business that you're going to go into is a big plus. You must have the knowledge to what you're going into. It's not that it's good for you, but it's good because you're providing your clients with what they need.
So then, how did working at Harrods shape your understanding of that luxury world, that service world, getting clear on what your clients need, running a business?
It's very. I started in Harrods very young, so in Harrods you've got everything. You've got timekeeping, you've got dress code, you've got customer service, you've got literally everything under one basket that you have to work with. And actually working with great people that show you leadership is so important, because they were like role models for us. Or for me personally, I would say they were a role model for me, because I can see the business and what they have, and it just made me look into that more and say, well, I want to be like that. And you see, whether it's clients coming in, successful clients. We had actors, but I looked at them. I didn't want to be an actress. It didn't give me that hunger. I didn't want to say, oh, I would like to become an actress one day. But when I saw business people, I actually thrived on that. Just to see it made me so happy to see.
So, going back to what you mentioned about your mentors.
Yes.
And in my experience, I've found that I've met the right people at the right time, and they've usually been the perfect people that I needed to meet on my journey. Going back to the people that you met at Harrods, who were some of your mentors, and what did they teach you that today you look back in hindsight and think, I'm so glad I met that person?
I would say Mohammed Al-Fayed was an interesting character for me. Very interesting. Business-wise, what I learned was unbelievable. Because firstly, it's the whole charisma behind it all. I found that he was very good to the staff. I have no complaints there. He was amazing towards all the sales people there. And that made me look and think, okay, this man has actually owns Harrods, bothers to come in once a week, walks around, checks on everybody, greets everyone. And it's just that down to earth.
So what did that teach you?
Humbleness.
Humility.
Yeah.
And then how's that served you in your business and what you do today?
I think a lot of people, I would say, a lot of my clients do respect the fact that I'm quite humble and I'm happy with the work that I do, and I'm respected in my industry. And that is so important because it's something that I've carried through knowing, meeting other business people, whether it was my managers, Dennis Howard, he's still at Harrods at the moment, great person, learnt a lot from him. So for me, I find that it was that kind of people that actually showed you
What did
leadership.
he teach you?
Being my manager showed me that it's like you get your job done and you're a star. A lot of people will say, oh, what does that mean? So I'll tell you, we come in the morning. He has a timekeeping. You must come in at a certain time. You must do your breathing at a certain time. You must understand your clients. And a lot of people will say, oh, you were in a department store. What was there? But every morning they will talk to you and they will speak to you about the clients that are coming in and how we can help them and what they need. And it's all about customer service. And in life now, everything is about customer service. Whether probably we're losing it a little bit, the customer service, but I do think it's a number one factor for everything, for businesses, is the customer service. But no matter what kind of business you are running, you need to have that customer services.
100%. I mean, today with AI, customer service is non-existent. People are automating everything. They want to do the least as much possible. They want to save as much cost. I think in the future, customer service will be number one. It always will be. Otherwise, businesses will start to close down. Let me take it up a notch. You're in a very unique position. You run a business with your husband. Now, I understand, and I spoke to a lot of my clients and a lot of people, this could be either the biggest gift or the hardest thing to navigate. So I just want to question you. Back to the beginning of that. What was the decision like to start a business with your husband?
Start a business with my husband, why that is. I mean, trust. If you trust the person that you're marrying, of course, that the business is just a second thing. So, of course, there's that trust. We have never sort of sat down and thought, do we really want to open a business together? We were sort of almost put into it that we didn't have time to think, is this the right thing? And my husband was still working at the time when I opened the business because, of course, we had our children, so we couldn't actually risk just having the business and no income coming in. So, of course, my husband was still working until, it didn't take much, actually. I think it was a month and he was already in because it was that quick of a turnaround. But I would say that I wouldn't recommend it now.
That was my next question. You beat me to it. Would you recommend it to someone who's watching this thinking, you know what, me and my wife or me and my husband, where we work along fine, I trust him, back to why you started the business, I want to start a business with my husband or my wife, would you recommend it? Well, you just said you wouldn't. How comes?
Why wouldn't I recommend it? Because you need to be very, very strong, have a very strong relationship with your husband. It has to be strong, as in love and everything, because there is going to be so much ups and downs. Is he my boss or am I his boss? It's that kind of, so we're both each other's bosses. So it's very, very important that anybody that decides to go into business with their partner, I do suggest they have a really, really good think about it. Because if you haven't got a very strong relationship, there's going to be so much ups and downs and everything, then there's a no.
How do you navigate between husband and business partner?
You can't. That's the reason why I'm saying if you can't deal with the fact that your husband is going to go home and you're going to be sitting across the dinner table and you're going to be talking about business, and you're going to go for a romantic Valentine's meal and you're going to be talking about business, then don't do it. If you're a romantic soul, I don't advise you to open a business with your husband.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because it's always easier to give advice to your past self. In hindsight, what advice would you give to, the past self, whether it was, you guys have been in business how long?
So we've been in business for 26 years.
Okay, let's talk about the person 20 years ago. What advice would you give to yourself 20 years ago that in hindsight you could have maneuvered to have things be even better with your husband as a business partner?
I wouldn't change anything.
Oh, you'd keep it the same?
I would keep it the same.
Speak about business 24/7.
I would speak about business. For us now, it's become a norm. But that's what I'm saying. It's for somebody that wants to open a business. That would be my advice to them. If you don't want to talk about business on your, night out or anything, then I suggest that when you're on
Which
holiday.
is really interesting. Really interesting. Do you know why? Because people that actually succeed in business, it's exactly this. There is no separation between business and life. Life is their business. Actually, Stephen Bartlett, the Diary of a CEO guy, he has a kind of whole series on the fact that he just enjoys what he does. People around him think he's insane, but he does it because to him, it's not business, it's life. So actually, that probably is why you guys have succeeded so well.
I'm glad that you said that, because for me, if coming now, the business that we have, I would still do it over and over again because it's something that we enjoy. I think me and my husband enjoy, I would say. I definitely enjoy it, speaking for myself. It's something that I enjoy doing. So I wouldn't change it.
So I heard about, when I was reading about you, reading your story, you and your husband were having to do the jobs yourself at the beginning because you couldn't fulfill your clients' needs. In that moment, clearly that was a growing pain, that was a growing challenge. What kept you going back then?
What kept us going was the fun of it, actually. It's actually because when you want to open a business, and I'm going back to when I said that when you open your business, you have to understand and know your business. And because we understood and knew our business, it was very easy for us to jump in and cover whatever wasn't covered for any of our clients. So we were there. We will be like hands-on, whether it's moving our staff from one place to another. It was very joyful. And looking back at it now, it was like the most incredible moments it's like almost an achievement for us. It's not, we don't look at it as, we couldn't fulfill, so we actually had to do the job ourselves. What a downer. It wasn't. It was more of, you know what?
We're
did
growing.
it. Yeah.
We're happy to go to work.
Yeah, we're happy to go to work because we weren't scared to get our hands dirty or anything. So we were happy. It was fine.
So then what was the transition like? Because, what I do know is in business, what takes you from 0 to 100,000 is one thing. From 100,000 to 1 million, it's another thing. And then, to 8 figures, it's a whole different mindset. So what was the transition like between, let's fulfill the job ourselves to eventually letting go of control, hiring people, trusting those people, training those people?
I'm happy that you asked that because I'm sitting here at the moment and I still haven't let go yet.
You're still in control?
Still in control.
Got it, okay. So
I'm still in control because I'm speaking for my husband as well. We find it very hard to let go. And we're still in the office. We'll be there 8 o'clock. We'll leave the same time. We're happy to do it. And that's understanding your business. And that's the respect that you will get from your clients is when they make a call or we're there. If they send an email, we're there. We'll answer it back. So it's although we have our management departments, our HR departments and everything else, we are there as well. And I think that's what makes us different compared to other agencies.
It's very interesting that because it is sometimes a catch-22 because the idea is everyone wants to become a business owner, not an operator. At the same time, some people let go too early and everything they built goes to rubbish, goes to the ground. But on the other end, when you keep watering your plants, eventually they grow. So in your case, the business has continued to grow because you've stayed on top of it and you haven't, delegated it to somebody else, trusted somebody else with your kind of pride possession, and it's benefited you. Clearly, it's worked. I'm just curious then, what is different today versus day one? Because you're doing something right. Because for some people where they can't let go of control, they can never go past a certain place. You have gone past, the 100,000, the 7 figures. What's working that's allowed you to scale?
What's working that's allowed us to scale is the fact that if I can go back to COVID. Now, during COVID, we know no one needs any reminders of what happened and everything else. But a lot of agencies had to close down. A lot of businesses had to close down. Thanks to the government and everything, we were able to support our staff and everything and keep some of the staff that we had. And also coming back to business when we reopened, I don't know whether it was the knowledge that I had that I thought, hold on. A lot of people must have thought, oh my God, we're never going to go back to what it was. I never had that feeling that I'm never going to go back to what I never had that, oh my God, my business is gone. I always had that, oh my God, my business is going to come back and it's going to come back stronger.
What have you done so well, where you've stayed on top of your business, what have you done so well to be able to keep up in this, rapidly changing economy and environment?
Yes, so let me go back to COVID days. When COVID hit, that was something that was very challenging for us because it came and we weren't aware. And of course, being in hotels, the first ones that get affected are the agency staff. Of course, you don't get the hours. There isn't a lot of events going on. So of course, we felt it straight away. But after that, with the government and the schemes they put through and everything, and we followed everything else, I saw a lot of agencies closing down, and I was thinking, oh, is this going to be one of us as well? We're going to close. But then I sat down to myself and I thought, oh my God, hold on. These hotels, never in my life have I seen a hotel closed. I've seen it closed for refurbishment, but you don't walk past a hotel and there's no life in it. You would walk, even if it's quiet, you'll see the doorman, but that was like a ghost town. So when I sat down, I thought, when at some point, everything's going to go back to normal. And then everybody's going to need staff. And that's when I thought, we're going to come back stronger. Let's keep this agency going. Let's do everything that we can to keep it going. And it did. Once the business came back, everybody started calling.
Before the business came back, tell me about the story when you called one of your clients in COVID and they said, why are you calling me? We're going to have bucketfuls.
I thought that I thought it would be very nice to keep in contact. And it was very, very nice because, just contacting clients that we had, some have lost their jobs, but we're still in contact with them, just checking to see how they are, because it wasn't a nice time for everyone. And being a family business, I felt like my clients were my family. So it was nice to check up on them to see if they were okay and everything. And I called one of my clients and she said, oh, why are you calling now? And I said, I'm just checking to see how you are. And she said, well, you must know that your business is dead, because when you come back, there's going to be so many staff that, we're going to have so many to choose from. So don't call me again. You know what the nice thing was? She called me.
Yeah, I was going to say myself, in hindsight, there's a staffing issue today.
Yeah.
After COVID, people just did not go back to work because it was the first time ever.
Yeah, she did call me back, which was nice, and we did help. And I didn't say, oh, remember what you said, wouldn't. Because you wouldn't say it, because you want the business.
So it sounds like your customer service skills from the Harrods days paid off, because now, while everyone's kind of crying and thinking, oh, my business is gone, you were still putting customer service first, still making those calls, still building those connections, and it's paid off.
Yeah, customer service is everything when you have a business to run. Customer service, and also your staff, the way you service your staff as well, the way you speak to them, the way you make them feel like they are it's not my company, it's our company. It's the whole, because it's a team. We develop all together, we achieve all together. So it's very, very important for them to have that reward as well.
Sounds good. Let me ask you two questions. One about, such high caliber client acquisition, landing clients like this. Secondly is, how do you retain them for so long? So let's start with the first question. How do you go about, for someone who's listening to this thinking, how do I land luxury clients? Like, I want to work with a certain caliber of client. Where do I even start? So how did you land luxury clients? Obviously can't mention the names due to...
Yeah, of course.
But how did you land such clients?
Well, actually working with hotels myself. So when I was working in Harrods, I used to work in hotels as well. So I had quite a good knowledge of head offices and everything, how to get in contact with head office and everything else. And that's how I started. And probably one of my clients said to me, she said, I remember this little girl when she came in front of me and said, I'm going to supply you for staff. And I looked at her and I thought, this little child doesn't know what she's talking about, but I'm going to give her a chance. And she said, oh, but she did prove me wrong. And it's almost like when you speak to anybody that you are wanting business of them, you have to speak from your gut of how much it means to you. And why?
Let me just kind of help you here. That's actually what I'm really asking you. Whenever you ask someone, great, hey, how did you, grow a business or do something? They'll tell you the mechanics. Oh, I went there and I used to work in a hotel. What I'm really asking you is what you were about to say. How did you build the confidence, the courage, the grit to go and make an offer to supply such large establishments with staff?
Well, because
despite even that experience where she's like, oh, I thought she was not.
Yeah,
she's from a different country. So.
Yeah, because you actually look at, when you're going for business, you think you're this big, powerful person, and you have the fire in your belly that nothing can stop you because you really want it. And this is what I said earlier. When you want something and it's up there, and you mislead that everything that's in front of you and you don't go through that steps, then you can never get to the part where you really want to. So for me, because of having that experience working in hotels, having the contacts of people, knowing the business itself, you actually know how to get into a hotel. And not in...
So you knew the how.
Yeah.
But what gave you the courage? You said the fire in your stomach. Not everyone has that. What made you have that confidence?
If you don't have the fire in your stomach to get that business, then you don't need a business. Just go and work for someone else.
But this was my first question. Do you think leaders are built or created? So you're saying you got to be that person.
I'll tell you something. When you have a company, like any company, it doesn't have to be recruitment, you have a sales department. Now, not everybody that you interview, you put in the sales department. Sometimes some person can come in, can have just chatty, can talk, but doesn't mean that they are business people, but they can talk. They can say the right things at the right time, and that person can bring you in business.
Got you.
You know?
So are you saying some people are salespeople and some people are relationship builders but might not be able to sell?
Yes.
Okay, got you.
Yes.
Do you feel like the person who just has a good relationship building skills can become a good salesperson, or are they trying to please too much that it probably doesn't work?
It depends on the person, I would say.
You think you can train them?
Can you train a person? Of course you can train a person, but does that person want to be trained? Because a lot of people think that they know it all. So it's very hard to train someone. It's like, how can I say, sometimes when you got someone that already knows how to walk, and they walk a little bit with some kind of limp, or it's a cool thing that they have, it's very hard to say to them, no, you need to walk this straight line. This is the way I want you to walk. And it's very hard. So I can't walk like a model.
Yeah.
I can try and try.
Yeah,
I can't walk like a model. So it's almost like, even if I wanted to be a model, I can't walk like a model. So you can't teach me, because I'm
you
not
have to
going to
find
learn.
someone who has at least the basic skill
Basic
that
skills
you can build up, but
yeah.
you can't give someone
Yeah.
something they don't possibly have.
That they don't
So that's
have.
in terms of landing. You know, you have to have the fire in your stomach. You have to basically be hungry for the business. You have to have your vision on point. But we all know that landing business is not the same as retaining business. Sometimes you can land business. Most businesses close down, not because they didn't have business, because they couldn't retain it. So what has been your magic sauce? For anyone listening, what's the magic sauce to actually retaining clients for a long term, over 20 years?
The service, the trust. When you're in recruitment in hotel, it's all about trust. Because if you have a function that's, of 1,000 people and you need to send the staff, and you've got this hotel that are actually relying on you. So it's trust, because they think...
But how do you keep that trust? Because I'm going to make a little assumption, and if I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong. But I'm going to assume over the space of 20 years, there's been challenges. One day, some staff didn't show up.
Oh.
And that's just bound to happen. Is that true?
Yes.
So how do you keep that trust, even though sometimes challenges and obstacles come up?
I'll tell you how to keep
For a
the
long
trust.
time, 20
because
years.
when staff don't turn up, because it's normal, this is a fun factor that staff will not turn up. Some, if you've sent 5 staff, one person might not turn up. But the idea to go back on that is the service, because we have this steps that we take that we can find out whether a person is not going to turn up, because we call in.
So how do you have the eye for that? Because right now we're in the middle of a pandemic of staff. Staff are leaving like no tomorrow. If someone's listening to this, I know I've pivoted a little bit towards staff retention. How do you have an eye for a good staff versus someone who's just here to, what's that called? What's that thing called where they just job jumping, whatever it is.
Job jumping.
So how do you have an eye for that? What are you looking for to identify a good staff member versus someone who's just here
I'll tell you what, there is something that we are doing at the moment that we're still doing. And I think we're doing it because of me and my husband at the office. And we're so old-fashioned that we don't want to take it off, is the interviews. Because a lot of the companies
So people still come to the office?
Yeah, a lot of a lot of the companies now, with the apps, it took us ages to get into look, we might be, one of, well-known agencies, but we were not the first ones to use the app, because I just refused it. I just wanted, I wish I could go back to the fax machine. I
don't know how scalable that model is.
But we weren't, and the reason why, because we wanted control on our staffing and our interviews, and to see whether, because it's very easy. You just send your CV online, you get interviewed online, everything. But then you go and serve a coffee, or you go and serve a meal, or you're checking in a person into a hotel face to face, but yet you haven't had that full interview.
That client-facing
with an agent. And I'm talking about agency. I'm not talking about hotels. I'm just talking about agency, the app business, because I'm actually not a fan of the app business. So I've sort of made the app business work with my business. Like, okay, I'll use the app, but I'm using it my way. Like, okay, you can put your CV, you can put whatever you want, but at the end of the day, we're still going to interview you and check everything.
Yeah, and for anyone listening, I think what you're doing is really good for a few reasons. You mentioned this, there's a genius in that. Actually, 55% of communication is used via body language. Like how you sit, how I sit. You can judge me, I can judge you, and just naturally you'll have an instinct for who I am because you've seen my body language. 55% of that. 37% is your tonality, your cadence, your speed. 7% is your words. When you're looking at an app, you're looking at 77% of communication. It's really, really hard to judge someone off of 7%. And I think that is one of the reasons why today there's such a pandemic in staff, hiring, retention, because you're judging based on nothing. Like really, what is 7%? It's nothing. So then going back to the trust with the clients, obviously you've had some staff, they've not showed up. They've like, oh my God, we had this big event. How have you retained trust with such high caliber clients over such a long period of time?
You see, I'll be quite honest, because if it happens all the time, then that trust is not gonna be there anymore. So when it happens, if it happens that you have a member of staff that hasn't turned up, when you have your next booking, you realize, okay, now this is where we've messed up. This is where we're gonna target now. We are gonna make sure that we are following that member of staff until they get into the premises. And
But what does it look like to have the conversation with the client? How do you regain their trust?
you have to be honest. It's
So you
just
don't lie
honest.
and say,
No, you can't lie.
So,
no.
so you're very honest with them.
Yes,
it's a very
honestly.
tough, candid conversation. Okay.
Yes, because you can't say, oh, so-and-so, he's just standing in front of you and he's not, because we're dealing with human beings. So when we actually send them a member of staff and they haven't, it's a very well-known factor that, okay, they must have had some kind of reason. I'm not going to name all the reasons because I'm sure we'll be sitting here with the excuses we had. But then again, we speak to our staff and make them understand, like, this is what's happened. You could lose us our business if they must understand the importance. So they must be part of our business.
Staff.
Yeah.
You let them know the importance of what the consequences of their actions are.
Because it's a team. So we've all done our job as a team, but they've let us down in that point. And that person just gets like, this is what's happened, spoken to. Look, this is what's really happened and everything. Please make sure it doesn't happen again. If we have a person that it happens all the time, then you know what to do, really.
I like that you mentioned that it is a team. How do you get to a place where you bring staff on board to understand that they're not just staff, it's not just, transaction of money, you are a team? How do you get a staff member to kind of
from the time
live
you
up to
interview them, from the time you say hello to them?
So it's nothing you do, it's about the people that come through the door.
Yeah.
There's a certain caliber of person that already wants to be a part of a team versus someone else who's selfish.
Yeah. They want to be part of a team and they come in and you say, the way you greet a person, you make them feel that they're part of a team,
So what you're basically saying is you want to find people that want to be a part of the team. There's no such thing as I'm going to say the right thing or offer the right incentive that's going to make the staff member want to stay with me.
No.
Either they want to stay or they don't.
Oh, they don't.
Up front. So your best, really what you're saying is prevention is better than cure. So have a good vetting process in place. Interview people in the right way, trust your gut with them.
Yeah, and I would also add that most of our staff that have worked with us for years and worked at the hotels that we send them to actually are still working at the hotels as managers. They've developed their skills. So they actually managers in hotels. They are our clients now. So they were at one point they were my staff, and now they are my clients.
So that's amazing. That's one of the answers I was looking for. Is like how do you maintain a relationship?
Yeah.
You basically planted these people when they were low. You made this investment in them emotionally.
Yeah. So
and now they're at a senior level.
Yeah, I would say it's very hard to go to a hotel in London and not be recognised for me. So. It's a very proud moment for me when I walk into a hotel and I see one of my staff that's a manager or in any of the departments. It really makes me proud because it's something that we were part of as a company.
So look, one of the biggest challenges that females have is juggling motherhood with a fast scaling business. How, in hindsight, over the past 25 years, how have you managed to juggle that?
How have I managed? I've actually, that was the other tricky or crafty thing that I did. I made sure I lived next to my mother. So, free childcare.
So you set up an environment that supported your goals.
Yes.
Environment is stronger than willpower.
Yeah, so I had great support from my parents. So that my kids actually had the family environment. They didn't lose out on anything. They had everything they needed. Of course, we had the weekends together and everything else, but we did not see a lot of them during the week. And that is part of me and my husband working together because we had the same hours.
Yeah, it reinforces the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
So you set up an environment that supported your goals with your mother.
Yes.
That's
And
amazing.
also because of the whole business, that the idea of the business, that for me to have my own business and everything was after my maternity leave. And I thought, oh, I can't go back to work now.
Yeah.
I need to do something where I'm more in control of when I want to see my kids and everything. And that was another thing that drove me to opening my own business, I would say, as
Got
well.
it. So it's almost like your love for your children that made you
Oh,
think,
of course,
I can't
yeah.
be doing,
Yeah.
you know, 9 months and then leaving my
I
kids.
wanted good schooling for them. I wanted everything. So I wanted to
So
give
you had
them
a strong purpose.
yes, I wanted everything.
That was greater than yourself.
Yeah, that was sort of my achievement in business, is my kids' education.
What values, you know, growing up with 4 kids, what values did you want to instill in your kids through your hard work? And did you think about that? Did you think of it in that way? Did you ever think of yourself as a role model for them through what you're doing?
I just wanted my kids never to give up and always go for what they wanted. You know, you know, it's very. I would say, I can say this. I think I don't want them to say, "Oh, I can't do this," because they have a mother that doesn't say, "I can't do this." You know?
Awesome. So like a
Yeah.
role model.
Yeah, you fall, you get up.
Yeah. It's
And
not
you
like the
carry on.
parents that just tell their kids
Yeah.
through words. You know, you showed
Yeah.
them the way your feet move.
Yeah, you think they look at you and they think they see they've actually, your kids as a family, when you have a business, this is something that's very important for anybody that wants to have a business. It's not your business. It's your family's business, because you might think, oh, I've come back, I've had such a hard day at work. But, you know, it's when you had the hard day at work and you've gone back home and you're showing that hard work in your household, it's very, that your kids become part of the business as well, because
they're
you're
watching.
showing that they're watching.
They're
them.
watching.
They're having that, oh, today's a really bad day at work. My dad's or my mum's not feeling too good about
Yeah.
it. So they have actually already gone through those emotions. So it's very important that we actually, I did say that me and my husband spoke about work a lot, but we never gave the kids the stress.
In your opinion, what is one thing or multiple things that most people underestimate about women in business, especially mothers?
That's the difference with women in business. There isn't enough time there isn't enough hours in a day, because you need more hours. You need, you know, that time to take your daughter to ballet, that time to take your son to football. You need to go to a meeting. You need to make sure that if something's not covered, you know, how can I cover it? So it's a whole, you know, especially with me, I think, I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, but my kids were quite spoiled. They want to cook dinner every day.
Yeah.
So it's all that. So I would say, as a businesswoman, it's time.
So how did you manage your time? Which
How
is
did-
the $1,000,000 question. Everyone's asking, how do I manage my time? So how did you manage your time? Because I know this about you, and we're going to talk about your grandkids in a minute. Right now, you're a mother, you're a grandmother, you have a scaling business. I'm sure you have a lot of other things on the side. How do you do it all? Like, do you know something we don't? Are you like Superwoman?
Am I superwoman? I don't think I'm super. I actually don't even realize what I'm doing. It's just actually something that is already in you. That like I keep saying, I just look and I see a list of things that I have to do, and I start from in front of me all the way to where I need to get to, and I just do them.
There's a lot of genius in that, but unfortunately that's not a strategy. But the truth is, like, this is actually me as well. The only way I manage my time is not think about it. Now, there are a little bit of strategies, but everyone's trying to focus on what strategy do I use to manage my time. I think the best strategy you can have is not think about it and just get it done.
I tried diaries. I tried putting things in my phone. None of them work for me, and it's just like I said. It's just for me. I know, and I think enjoy whatever you're doing. You need to enjoy, and I enjoy every single thing that I want to do it, and
That's the thing,
even if
yeah.
it's a struggle, when I do it, I do have that kind of wow. You know.
That's the thing, like, obviously if someone listening to this does want a strategy, the strategy is You know, your why comes first. When you're having fun, time flies. Don't think about it. You know, work-life integration. If you want a strategy and you're listening, how can you integrate your work and your life rather than having here's work, here's life? How do you have work-life integration? That's the best way to do it.
You know, this is so important that you don't mix, like I said, the stress of your work, and you don't say, I don't have time because of my work. You need to make that time.
Yeah,
You
work-life
really
integration.
Yeah, you need to make, and you need, when you, a lot of people make the time, but they make whoever's around them guilty. Oh, I've taken the time off to actually.
I've been guilty of that myself.
You know,
like I'll do something nice, I'll take the time out, but I let people know, hey, listen, I could have been somewhere else. You know?
And that is the worst thing to do, especially
I'm really
with
sorry
your
to any of my family and friends that do this.
Especially with your family and your friends, it's so not nice actually to actually say, you know, I would have been actually in a meeting, but I made time for
I'm guilty
today.
of that myself.
Yeah, so I think that is, and the same way, the other way around, you don't walk into a meeting and say, listen, I should have been with my kids, but I'm here with you giving me a headache. But you don't say that.
True.
Yeah, so it's just exactly, this is the way you need to think. What you don't say to your clients, you're not going to say to your wife.
I think
your kids.
you've hinted at something really important I just want to bring light to. It is very, very important that you do not take the work achiever, high achiever mentality to your family. Because, you know, I've been guilty of this myself. I'll go in there and say, I could have been elsewhere. But the truth is, no one cares. Like, they don't care that you could have been elsewhere. The truth is, it's a whole different game. Like, you're there to be loving, caring, emotional. And I think as high achievers, we want to make the most of every moment because we don't have time. But the truth is, you know, those people that just want to spend time with you, they don't care about getting anything done. You know, they don't want to achieve anything by spending time with you. They just want to be with you. Yeah. And because we're like such high achievers, we like want to make the most of that moment. We want to be doing something. Are you sitting down? Why are we sitting down?
Do you know what it is? It's because you're at work and you've got so many people wanting a bit of your time. And even if it's a 10-minute or 5-minute, you just want that 5 minutes with you. I think it goes to our head that when our family actually want it, you think, listen.
Make it count. Make it count. You know what I mean? So you recently became a grandmother. What do you want your grandkids to remember about your story?
What would I like them to remember? I just, like I said, I want them to be strong characters. And both of them are girls, so I want them to have this achievement that they can achieve whatever they want.
It's the same as
knowledge,
your kids. Just do what, you know, you can achieve.
And I actually, whatever I've given to my kids, I want my kids to give to my grandkids as well. I want them, because I'm sure they're not going to my grandkids are not going to look back and say, oh, my grandmother was like this. Their superhero is their mum, not their grandma. So I want my daughters to be the superheroes and my son to be the superhero, not the grandma.
Got it. So I've got 2 more topics. The next one is actually very interesting, especially if we've got female listeners. You've succeeded in a male-dominated industry. How did you make sure that your voice was heard no matter what?
It's loud enough.
Yeah. How did you make sure that it was heard?
Well, actually, it's just, you need to actually know what you want and just go for it, because it's not a male thing or female thing. I'm one of those people that don't think that way. So I never walk into a room and think, oh my God, there's all male here. What
so you didn't start with that insecurity to begin with, which is
no. I actually
walk
into the room and I think, oh, all male. I'm winning here.
Yeah, I'm like unique. So that's really perfect, actually, because a lot of people walk in feeling less than. Your thinking wasn't. It's not even a thing.
No, it's not.
I'm just here to do business.
No, exactly.
No man, no woman. I'm
here to do business.
So
that's it. I'd never thought of it as, oh my God, I'm the only female in the room, or never. It's never crossed my mind. Or
I mean, that in itself is amazing advice to any woman that's about to step
I would tell any woman, just go in there and be you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So there's 2 things there for anyone that's listening that's a female that are about to step into a female leadership role. Is A, don't even think about it. B, just be you.
Yeah.
What other advice would you have for females that are about to step into a leadership role, or already in a leadership role and want to take it to another level? What advice would you give them?
What advice would I give them? It's depending on what they want, because it's my advice to every woman out there is see what you want and go for it. Don't let anything stop you. Whether it's, I'm going to say, whether it's family, you think, oh my God, I can't do this because I have a family. I can't, I can't give them the time. You can give them the time. Yes, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. It's very rewarding when you do it. It's very rewarding, but it shouldn't stop you anywhere. So any female out there that wants to go out, she can achieve anything.
How has your leadership evolved over the years? Because I know, when you first start a business, you're more like command and demand. And then, it grows and eventually you realize you can't control people. And then, your leadership evolves. How has that evolved over the years?
I think I wasn't horrible, but I was very tough. I was very military when I first started.
How did that evolve over the years?
And I think it's just old age, probably. I've just
really maturity. Nothing else. You didn't learn anything.
No,
you just matured.
You just mature, and you think, oh my God, why do I need to do all that screaming? Because you don't need to do. And don't forget, everything now has changed. You see, there's. I don't even talk anymore. I do send emails because before it was a lot of talking. So
you have time to think about it.
Yeah, you have a lot of, thinking to do before you send the email and everything. Where before you just pick up the phone and you're like, and you think, oh, why have I done that? But changing, it's just you know the business more. When you know the business, it's almost like I can tell you in January, without having no knowledge, I can tell you how the business is going to go through the whole year. Which month is going to be
feedback?
Yeah, which one is going to be quiet? So it's almost like it's injected into you that you know how the seasons work. You know when something is going to come up and you're going to be quiet. That business is not going to do very well. So it's almost.
It's very true, at the end of the day, yes, people read books, people watch videos, courses, but, the best way to learn is to do. And I think a lot of people are sat down stuck in reading the next book, the next course, the leadership program. But the truth is, I like what you said, maturity on its own, by doing the business, by being in the business, you naturally will mature and you will grow your leadership skills.
Of course.
Without just sitting here reading a book, because most people just read a book, but then they can't implement it. So you'd rather just trial and error. Like you said, you used to scream at people, and now it's like evolved naturally. You learn more by doing than reading a book. So now I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions. Just, first thing that comes to your mind, let's go for it. So what's one belief that made you limitless?
Honesty and trust.
Beautiful. So just always be honest and gain trust and trust people.
Yes, of course.
Amazing. What's one hard lesson that's made you stronger?
One hard lesson that's made me stronger? COVID.
How did it make you stronger?
It made me stronger by believing in myself more than what I already did. It's when you think of something that everything's going to be okay, and you think everyone around you saying, oh my God, that's it. And then it is okay. And then you think, I got it there. Yeah.
What's one word that you would describe the future of female leadership?
Power.
Power. You think they're going to start becoming more and more powerful?
Yes.
Amazing. Last question. What is one last message that you would want anyone listening to this to hear?
I would say to all the ladies out there, get apprenticeships, go into education, start businesses. None of this dancing and, you can dance. I love to dance, but at your own time. There's real stuff out there. And I do believe that, like I said, at the time when I started my business, there was no apprenticeships. But I feel that I was my own apprenticeship. Like, I am the one that
So you gave yourself your own apprenticeship?
Yeah, yes.
Awesome.
And I think it's a lovely thing out there. So I would recommend it that for anybody out there to actually, especially young ladies and everything, to actually do, whether it's a course or actually going into...
So basically educate yourself. Back to the education thing. Educate yourself. Doesn't matter how, doesn't matter where, who, what, when. Just educate yourself.
Definitely 100%.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I look forward to speaking to you on the next episode.